Hi guys, it's Claire's. Welcome to my channel again, and welcome to this Procreate video where we are going to be doing something based on this painting, this watercolor painting that I did and posted on the channel last week. And this is what my trial of this looks like in Procreate. So we're going to try and create something serene like this in Procreate. I hope you guys are excited. So make sure your iPads are charged and let's get started. Okay, so we're ready to begin. We're going to start off with a white surface. And as I mentioned, I have a palette set up already and I've called it Skies. I'm going to have that available in the description below for you to download. We're going to start off by creating a new layer. And I've just kept my old layers here for reference. And the first layer we're going to create is the purple sky. So we're just going to rename that to purple. And then we are selecting our beautiful purple that we have right there. And we're making sure we're going to airbrushing and selecting soft brush. And then just zooming out a bit, I'm going to take a brush that's about maybe like 60%. And I want to do a line at the top here. So something like that to give me that nice little purple. In fact, you know what? I want it to be slightly higher and lighter so that we've got about this much purple happening. And then from there, we're going to create another layer and we're going to name it pink. Rename, and I'm putting in pink. And then we select our nice pretty pink that we have right there. And again, with the same brush, we're going to go and very lightly, I'm touching this very, very lightly because I do not want the intensity of the color to be too much. So I'm very lightly kind of just adding these. You know what? Before we do that, we're going to lower the size of the brush to like about 34% and then go in and add pink just like that. So we have a blend from purple to pink. Then the next layer we want to do is we want to create orange. So I'm going to name it orange. Now for the orange, I want it to be a lot thinner. So I'm selecting my orange. I want the spread to not be as wide. So we're obviously going to go down to maybe about let's say 15%. And then right below the pink where it's fading off, we kind of go ahead and do something like this. So now you have that nice transition. Actually, I'm not quite pleased with how that looks, so I'm going to undo it and go even lighter. Perfect, just like that. So I want it to be about this much, if you can see it. And if it's not symmetrically aligned, or sorry, if it's not like a straight line, don't worry too much about that. Just try and get this in, get the feel for mixing the skies and using the brush and the pressure that you use. I want to add some intensity to the pink, so I'm going back to the pink and just trying to get that brush size again and just adding a little bit more pink. So we get a nicer transition between the orange and the pink, just like that, right? So we've got like, whoops, added some pink there. All right, so then the next thing we want to do is, actually I'm just looking at this again. I'm a little bit unpleased with how thick the orange looks, so I'm going to go thinner with the orange. Yeah, something more like this. Perfect. So this is more of the intensity and the sizing that I wanted for the orange. Let me just try and get that curve that I have in there away. Perfect. Now we're going to go in and get some of the blue. So I'm going to rename this to blue. And we are selecting the blue that is the medium blue, or I think it's the darkest blue that we have. no, sorry, medium blue, not darkest, that's the darkest. And again, I'm using the same brush, trying to get it slightly bigger, so I go below the orange and I get a nice blend of the blue. Because what we're doing next, you'll see, and it's fine if you get a bit more intense with the blue or a larger brush and it kind of fades off, because we're going to add blue to the bottom. And then the next thing we do is add the horizon line with a blue. So I'm naming it horizon. And I am selecting my dark blue. And then for our brush, we're going to be using the, I believe it is under painting. No, is it artistic? You gotta give me a little bit of time. Yes, it's under calligraphy and it's Kunani. And we're gonna go and try to see what sizing we have. So I think about like maybe 35%, and I'm pressing down and going all the way across, kind of in the middle of the blue almost, and I'm holding it down so that it gives me a nice straight line. And once I have that, I'm letting go. And I think it's pretty much straight. Yes, perfect. So now we're going to take the smudge tool, the little hand tool at the top, and we're just going to smudge out this blue that we have here. And you can see I am very lightly kind of just smudging it out. And I want it to kind of blend in with the light blue that we have happening and give us that nice blending effect, almost kind of like watercolor. And technically that's what we're kind of trying to achieve. And I'm making the top a little more fuzzy-ish compared to the bottom. Perfect. So now we've done like our first top. You can always go in and add a little bit extra of the purple if you feel like you need to kind of intensify that a bit. So for instance, I'm just going to go ahead and add maybe a tad bit of that purple over here. And it was airbrushing. And then we're gonna now we're gonna move on to the bottom. So we're gonna rename this to water. All right, perfect. And then we're selecting our kind of medium blue that we selected previously. Actually, before we do that, let's select the lightest blue that we have, go back to airbrushing, and we're just gonna airbrush this area here. The brush size should be about like 60-ish. I'm going backward to kind of make sure that I have good enough intensity of the blue happening. Yes, and so now once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and get some of the darker blue that we have here, the medium blue that is, and just get, that's too big, but you got to try it out to see how big, and then you can kind of move things along. And I want this light or medium blue to kind of start from this horizon line that we have here, so it looks like it's blending in. Perfect. And then I'm going to go and get some of the darker blue, and I just want to add a little bit of it using the brush, maybe like 46%, no, smaller, maybe 24%-ish, maybe a little bit less. I'm kind of just adding it to the edge, the bottom edge of it, to kind of just give it that dark hue just like we have here, right? And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and get some white, and this is where things really start to open up. So let me just name this next layer white and select white, and we're kind of ready to move on to the next bit. All right, so for this next bit, it's important because this is where we kind of go in and add white space to our painting, and it sits on a layer that's sitting on top of all the layers below. So we're going to select, I think it's fine if we just kind of select the same brush right here, the soft brush. Let's just try that out and see how that works out. But we don't need the white to be so intense. So we're going to try and do maybe about 20% because I want a little bit of white happening in the center. I don't think this is white. This is white. So I want it to be kind of like in between the pink and the purple and even like the orange that's happening. So I'm going to give this a couple of tries to kind of get it at the right area. So there's a nice breakup. And I'm just adding very light strokes to kind of intensify it here and there so it's not consistent, doesn't look like one line. And then I want a little bit of white at the bottom here too in this area. And you can see how it immediately kind of really opens up the whole painting or your artwork. And again, this is something like you might have to go back a couple of times and redo the strokes to kind of make it look a certain way. And you see how some of this area is getting mystified almost. You can always take your eraser and use the same brush and kind of brush off so it doesn't look as intense. That's if you don't want the white to kind of show or mystify some of this area here. So I'm just very lightly trying to take some off so you have an idea of what you can do if you want to just, you know, have a nice soft brush, but I can see that it's getting up higher. How do you fix that, right? So going back to the regular brush, I'm going to make this slightly smaller and just get a little bit of a haze happening there. Perfect. And then what I want to do is just go a lot smaller, and I want to try and get some white white strokes happening in between here. But at this point you probably want it to be a lot lighter, thinner, so it doesn't look too intense. And I'm just doing little strokes in the background. And we don't need too much because we're going to go in with a textured brush and add some added texture. But if you like the straight lines and you just want to leave it at that, you can totally do that. All right, so that's that. I want to do some in the sky as well. So I'm adjusting that and just adding a couple of lines into the sky. It takes a couple of like tries going back and forth just to get the right intensity. Oh, that's too much. Maybe make it smaller and then go in and get some lines in there. Maybe some in the horizon as well. And I'm just trying to make these a lot thinner and closer to each other. So it goes from super broad to like broad spaced to narrow space. Perfect. And so now for the next thing, we're going to add some nice clouds and water ripple effects. But so far we are coming along really well. All right, so we're going to do the clouds like I mentioned. So we're going to make sure that we have selected, selected the purple, and then we're going to go into brushes, and under elements we're selecting clouds. And what I like to do is create a couple of the same purple clouds in the purple haze that we have, but making sure we're on a new layer. So just make sure you rename that layer clouds, just so again you guys know exactly where things are. And we are selecting like a large size for the brush, so maybe like at 60%, and just do like a simple, why is it not working? Yeah, there we go, you can see it. So if you just did like a dot, you can see the effect of the cloud right there, and we don't want anything too intense. So I'm gonna do one there, one here, one at the top here, so you can see a very tiny haze. and then I'll lower the size to get some tinier ones overlapping so it creates some nice, what's the word? Dimension. And I'm adding some to the side, maybe some off to the corner to kind of intensify, give it like a darker look just like we have at the bottom. Some overlapping over here, just a tiny bit there. And then I want to go ahead and get the light gray white color that we have there. And I'm going to go ahead and create a couple more clouds using that color and just allow the blending to happen. So you can adjust the size if you want these clouds to be smaller. And then I'm going to keep some in the center here, some off to the side, so it's giving us some nice overlapping, some in the distance, so I'm making it smaller and kind of going lower with this effect here. And we don't want to overpower the whole scenery, so we're not going to go, I'm trying to take this one off. Yeah, so I don't like that placement there, so I'm going to go have one there, and then have one that's slightly bigger here. So again, at this point, it's all about preference and where you want placement of your clouds, but I'm kind of showing you how you can get that effect. So keep that in mind, try this out. Place where you feel like it needs to be placed. So I'm going to end the clouds right there, and we are going to add a couple, actually for the top that's it, but let's add a couple more at the bottom here. Let me take some of the pink, and for this I'm just going to go at the top here, right where we've got some of the pink and the orange kind of meeting. And I'm just adding very light strokes. So I don't even know if you can actually see it as much on camera, but I think you can. And I'm just adding a couple of strokes here and there to kind of intensify and give us that nice layered effect and look. Maybe even get some of that orange. Try and blend some of the orangey effects. Try something. Try a new thing, right? Actually, that's not needed in the center. Let's just leave it without the center bit. Perfect. So I'm not going to touch the top bit for this anymore. We're going to move on to the bottom and do our waves next. So for waves, we are selecting the dark hue first. And then under elements, again, we've got oceans for our brush. And again, you're going to have to like play around with the sizing a bit first before you decide which one you want to use. But let's select like 68, 70-ish. And using the dark hue, I'm just kind of painting along inside here. And at the bottom. And you can see the ripple that it's kind of giving already. And then as you kind of go higher, you can go smaller in your brush size, just to kind of make it, you don't want to make it look too turbulent, you want it to still look peaceful, but giving it a little bit of texture here and there. Right? You can even lower the opacity a bit to get it to be lighter in certain areas. And maybe as you go distant, it's a lot lighter. So that's what I've done there, just like lowered the intensity of the opacity, not intensity. But yeah, you know what I mean. And then I'm going to switch to the white or the light gray, whichever you feel works for you. And I am getting my brush to be around 27%, and I'm going to go ahead and create some of these happening. I don't want too much because it's a little too textured, but I want to have a little bit of this happening here and there, maybe even blending it with some of the blue bits that we've done. And then let's go really big and add a couple more at the bottom. Just like that. So you have this nice textured area and it looks like the sea, right? All right, one last thing, and we're not going to do this part here. You guys know exactly how to do that. So if you want to add that in, you totally can. I'm just going to add a little bit of that reflection of the pink orange to the bottom, and then we are done. So I'm going to get my pink first, and switching back to my, was it artistic? I always kind of forget. No, it is airbrushing, soft brush. And we want to make sure that it's not too intense. So let's try it out. Oh, perfect. Oh gosh, I got it correct right away. And then maybe a little bit of the orange. Let's lower the intensity and get, nah, nope, too intense. Nope. So sometimes it takes a couple of tries. Just, you know, I don't think it really adds too much, but I'm going to leave it like that because I think that effect is just perfect. And just adding a little bit of pink at the top there to kind of show that it's in a couple of areas, and then maybe just off to the side. And then I'm leaving it at that. And here we go. We've got our pretty scenic visual. And this is based off the watercolor video tutorial I did last week. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you've tried it. Tag me on Instagram or on Facebook, or just send me a DM. My handle is Hello Clarice G. If you guys like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this in your social media channels. It really does help me grow, guys. Thanks so much again. Bye.